Assalamualaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, in the previous lecture, we have started Unit 4 of this book, second year English book, and we have talked about the first lesson. But as you know that we haven't finished that yet, right? We were in the middle of the lesson. Just to give you a quick recap, the theme of the unit was hope, courage, and determination. These three phenomena, they are going to be discussed in this unit through three different genres of literature, stories and poem. Two of them are stories. The first one is determination. This is also a story about an engineer who came up with a very unique, novel idea back in 1883. He shared that idea with the rest of the engineers of the world, the experts basically, and all of them rejected the idea, and they were of the view that back in 1883, engineering, or we can say the science and technology was not up to that limit that we can build such a bridge that can connect Brooklyn with Long Island. Finally, after facing all these issues, he discussed this idea with his son, Washington. And he was also an engineer. He encouraged him, and then, both of them, father and son, they started working together on the bridge. After a couple of months, everything was okay, but then a tragic accident happened. In that accident, John Roebling died, the very man who came up with this idea, while his son, Washington, he was badly injured and he was a crippled man. He could not move, he could not walk, he could not talk. After facing such a tragic end, people used to say this, the very common thing, the very common dialogue. We used to tell them, these are crazy dreams, you shouldn't have followed this dream, it was impossible. And that is why this was very common for Washington also. So people started criticizing them, that we informed them, we warned them that this is something which is impossible, but still they went on and they tried to do something that was impossible, and see, that is the end. One is dead, the other is injured badly. So we will see now from that point onward what will happen with the story. The page number that we were working on previously was 123. Now we are going to talk about the same lesson on page 124 in the same book. From there I will continue. I will read the first paragraph. Kindly open your books on page 124. Let me read from the text. He tried to inspire and pass on his enthusiasm to some of his friends, but they were too daunted by the task. As he lay on his bed in his hospital room, with the sunlight streaming through the windows, a gentle breeze blew the flimsy white curtains apart, and he was able to see the sky and the tops of the trees outside for just a moment. When he was injured, he was crippled, he could not move, he could not talk. In the hospital room, on his, I would call, deathbed, he tried to inspire other people. He tried to, convince other people to proceed the project. But other people, they were too, they were daunted by the task. They were afraid of doing that task. It was such a huge new idea and such a huge task and such a huge project that they could not take it, and they were nobody dared to do that. As he lay on his hospital bed in Rome, with the sunlight streaming through the window, this is basically a message. This is a message from the nature for Washington, that just don't lose hope. You can do it. And this very line is basically it is shedding light on the very concept that never give up. So he was laying in his hospital bed. A slow breeze flew, and it removed the curtains from the window, and he could see the light and trees and again the world outside, which was a slight indication from nature that this thing is possible. In the next paragraph, look at your books. It seemed that there was a message for him not to give up. It seemed, by the very action, by the very thing that happened around him in the hospital, when the breeze flew and it removed the curtain from the window, it was a signal that you should not give up. Suddenly an idea hit him. He came up with another idea now. All he could do was move one finger, and he decided to make the best use of it. After getting injured and seriously injured, he could only move one finger. It is exactly like Stephen Hawking, one of the celebrated scientists of 20th century. Same thing happened to him. He could only move his eyebrows, and through just moving by his by moving his eyebrows, Stephen Hawking discovered black holes, and he did wonders. He is one of the most celebrated scientists of 20th century, and you might have seen his picture, you might have seen his videos. He is an inspirational personality for everyone, and he has done wonders without even able to talk. He could only move his eyebrows. So same thing happened to Washington. He could only move his finger. So he wanted to use this one thing that was working, which was the finger. By moving his finger, he slowly developed a code of communication with his wife. What he did basically, since he was crippled, he could not move any of his limbs. So he wanted to make the best use of his finger. So he basically developed a code by tapping his finger on his wife's arm. He developed a code by doing that. So he used to tap that finger on his wife's arm, and through that tapping, he used to deliver messages to his wife. He touched, look at your books, he touched his wife's arm with that finger, indicating to her that he wanted her to call the engineers again. After developing that code with his wife, just by tapping the finger. Imagine, we have every facility, we have everything, we can't even do a very simple common task. And he was doing such a great thing and such a wonder, and he is now using just one finger to finish off this task. You will see how. So he was tapping his finger on his wife's arm to call the engineers back. Then he used the same method of tapping her arm to tell the engineers what to do. It seemed foolish, but the project was underway again. So through that communication, he started delivering messages to his wife, and then his wife used to tell the engineers, this is what Washington wants to say. This is the message from Washington. You should do this and that. So the bridge between the engineers and Washington was Washington's wife, right? So it seems foolish, it is something that we don't easily believe on. That was the thing that was happening around, but still, as a result, the project moved on, right? On the same page, look at the last paragraph. For 13 years, Washington tapped out his instruction with his finger on his wife's arm until the bridge was fully completed. And just imagine, 13 years. Not 6 months, not 1 year, not 5 years, 13 years continuously. He used to deliver this message by tapping his wife's arm and delivering the messages, the concepts, the formula, the mathematical, everything that was related to that bridge. He used to deliver all of them by just tapping one finger on his wife's arm. And in 13 years, that project was completed. Today, the spectacular Brooklyn Bridge stands in all its glory as a tribute to the triumph of one man's indomitable spirit and his determination not to be defeated by circumstances. So even, the writer is referring to the bridge, that it is, the bridge, Brooklyn Bridge is still there. And it is not just a bridge, it is an inspiration. It is an inspiration for people who used to say, I can't do this, or this is not possible, right? This is a practical message for them. So this is, an inspiration, and this is a tribute also, a tribute to the man who was handicapped, who lost his father in that project, who lost his almost all of his body, just one finger, and he did it. Well, that is something we need, that is something that is the encouragement that is needed for everyone, especially for students. It is also a tribute to the engineers and their teamwork and to their faith in a man who was considered mad by half the world. And this is also a tribute to those engineers who were working on the project on Brooklyn Bridge. This is also a tribute to those people, and also to their faith. Look at the level of their faith. They never lose hope. And they believed on a man who was considered half mad. People used to say, this man is crazy. How can he come up with this idea? This idea is not a practical idea. This thing cannot be done. So this is also a tribute to those engineers who believed on John Roebling and Washington. It stands too as a tangible monument to the love and devotion of his wife, who for 13 years patiently decoded the messages of her husband and told the engineers what to do. And this is also a tribute. This bridge is also a tribute to his wife. Just imagine if a woman or even a person, human being, any human is asked to sit for 13 years and deliver these messages. Just you will get tapped on your arm, which is a very hideous task. It's a Herculean task. It's a very difficult thing to do. So it was also the determination of that woman, Washington's wife. So it is also a tribute to her. It is also, it is also an example for everyone that a woman, when she wants to do something, she can also do that. So she is also the part of this wonder. The last line of the lesson, perhaps this is one of the best examples of a never say die attitude that overcomes a terrible physical handicap and achieves an impossible goal. And the writer is ending the story with the line that since this is one of the best example to say never say die. I mean, it is never too late. It is never it is never impossible. In short, you should not say that this thing is an impossible task, I can't do this, or nobody has done it before, so that is why I can't do it. This is a very perfect example for all those people. All right, gentlemen, we are done with the lesson, with the text of the lesson. I hope you have understood that. I will give you a quick summary of the lesson now. Right now, we have finished this part, explanation of the text. We are going to move on to the summary of the lesson. In the next video, inshallah, I will talk about the exercise, right? So let me quickly tell you the summary of the whole lesson. That, of course, is going to be one of your questions in section C in your final term exam paper. Determination, right? This was the lesson that we have been discussing for the last 2 lectures. This is a story about an engineer named John Roebling, who in 1883 come up with the idea that I want to connect Long Island with Brooklyn through a bridge. There was no bridge previously, and this was a long distance. This was not an easy task back in 1883. Just imagine in 1800, in 19th century, this was something impossible. He came up with this idea. He shared this idea with other engineers, and they rejected the idea. In short, those experts who were masters, or who were regarded as classics in buildings, in bridge buildings, they rejected the idea that this is a very novel, new, unique idea, and this thing cannot be done. So he was left with no choice. He went on and he talked to his own son, Washington, and he tried to encourage him. At the end, he succeeded in encouraging his son, and they both started working on the bridge. After a couple of months, a tragic accident happened, and John Roebling died in that accident. While Washington, he was badly injured. Again, the project was halted, it was stopped, it was paused. When he was in hospital, he was thinking, how can I resume the work on the bridge again? He just tried to manage one thing. he could only use one of his finger. He was completely handicapped. He could not move. He could not talk. He could not even eat properly. So just by moving one finger, he came up with this idea that I will take this finger on my wife's arm and I will try to develop a code with her. And he did. He developed a code with her, and slowly and gradually, they have actually they have managed to to communicate through their tapping of the finger. Then he asked his wife to call the engineers, and again through the same process for 13 years. It took them 13 years to complete the bridge, and the whole process was happening in the same manner that Washington used to tap his wife's arm. She used to tell the engineers that this is what my husband wants you to do. That is how it has been completed, which is a wonder in history, and this is a huge inspiration for all people. That was the summary of the lesson. In the next lecture, I'm going to discuss its exercise. That was all for now. Thank you very much.